last week we had the pleasure of broadcasting the 2022 Cornwall Dementia Conference held at the amazing Atlantic Hotel. It was amazing.
It was a great day.
In Newquay. Reach hosted a great number of guests from across the sector to take part in workshops and hear from the most inspiring speakers. And my goodness, they were, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
We heard from her at the conference, and with us now is NHS Kernow's clinical lead for dementia, Dr. Allison Hibbert. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today, Doctor.
Hello, thank you for having me on. It was such a great conference. Thank you to you guys for kind of supporting it, really. It was a great day.
It was great, wasn't it?
It was. There was a lot going on. There was a lot to take in. I'm sure later on that night you must have got home and poured yourself a glass of something.
But we were buzzing. There was so much great chat, so much great networking, and it really got people talking about dementia. So it was a great day all round. I hear that there were quite a number of people watching on your live stream, actually.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say it right now because the right people are listening. The amount of people that ask me that question or say that thing to me, and I personally have no idea. The people over that way somewhere, who I can't even see the faces of now that I'm on this side of the desk, know all that. So,
well, what I can.
I know it was nearly what with your live stream and the Facebook page for Reach. It was nearly 1,500 people actually watching around the country, and it wasn't just people watching in Cornwall.
That's incredible.
It
well done
is,
to you guys on the pitch.
And I think as well, like obviously throughout the day, I had the iPad on my lap, and I kept sort of looking at all the different comments and stuff that were coming in, and it was lots of people were commenting sort of where they were watching from or apologising they couldn't be there, and they're like, oh, I wish I'll be there next year, or it was really interactive, which was what we wanted.
Amazing, really good to hear. Really good to know that people were really invested, really interested in it. And obviously, the whole point of it was to get word out, maybe a bit of education, a bit of more awareness around such a topic that needs it, really. Yeah. And let's bring ourselves into sort of the main questions here. So let's go a bit more about yourself at the moment, because we've heard a lot about dementia, and it's lovely to get to know the people talking as well, like yourself. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about your role as the clinical lead for dementia here in Cornwall?
Yeah, so I'm a GP with an interest in older adults by background, and I look after the patients up at Launceston Community Hospital. But I also have a role working for NHS Kernow as the lead for dementia, which means that I champion for the people living with dementia, champion for their carers, and championing for those providing kind of services, really, and helping us provide improvements. We know in Cornwall we haven't always got it quite right yet with dementia care, so there's a big kind of focus for our system to make improvements.
Absolutely. And what about the Southwest in general? Like, I know you mentioned Launceston there. Is that where you're primarily based, or is the area that you cover more sort of the whole of the Southwest?
Yeah, so for my dementia role, it's the whole of Cornwall. We're trying to improve dementia care across the whole of Cornwall, really. We know that we've got some of the lowest diagnosis rates of dementia in Cornwall for the whole of England, actually. So we are trying to sort of raise awareness and improve. The idea is that a diagnosis of dementia should be the key to kind of unlock support.
Absolutely. Now, before we get too much into your line of work, which we want to hear about, can we talk about a bit more about the conference last week? It was absolutely brilliant. It was lovely to hear you talk as well as everyone else. How could you go into things a little bit? How was it for you? Was there any highlights for you specifically?
Yes, the conference, the idea was to get everybody just talking about dementia. We're still facing loads of stigma for the condition. There's people are used to talking perhaps more about cancer or heart disease, but dementia is still a condition where people are fearful. So the highlight really was just to get everybody kind of talking. I think it was a fantastic event of networking. We know that lots of us haven't got together sort of during the COVID period, so actually to have a face-to-face conference was really, really great, and it kind of led the kind of whole ethos of actually, let's focus on some of the things we can do to support people living with dementia, starting a little bit with kind of kindness, compassion, listening, and that dementia cares for everybody. But in terms of highlights, we had some amazing speakers. We had Rosie from Musica, focusing on music therapy for dementia. Laura Walker from Memory Matters talking about cognitive stimulation. Cascade. We had Carol talking about reminiscence. We had so many kind of talks. We had the amazing Halo Theatre. There was just so much going on. It was such a great buzz. We had colleagues talking about education, because we're trying to get everybody educated around dementia. There's still a lack of awareness and understanding.
Just want to say the Halo Theatre, that was tough. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. Obviously, we were trying to organise things behind the scenes, next guest, microphones, all that kind of thing. So difficult, because that was such a touching performance. And I was stood there like, I can't well up. I've got a job to do. Yeah. I can't well up. I've got a job to do. And I'm just watching going, this is getting hard now. And it was so good.
It was brilliant. I think it's really good to use different methods to get messages across, really. And I think they made the point so beautifully, really. I think it was an excellent piece, and probably my favourite kind of conference opening for a while, actually. Really great it was.
Yeah. Another pair that had me going like that, actually, was our very Pat and Helen, I Care, I Move.
Yes.
My goodness me. That story for Helen, for going so close to home. And I'm just stood there going, oh, no, not again. Not again. Absolutely brilliant, though, to hear that information. I never heard about the type of dementia I heard about before that she was talking about. No. So, great information again.
Yeah, and they just talked about kind of, a movement therapy, that getting people kind of moving for everybody. It was just the whole focus of the conference really was kind of demedicalising dementia, making sure that there's something for everybody, not focusing on the things people can't do, but the things they can, and thinking kind of wider really. We also had the Sensory Trust, who focus on therapy using kind of nature. And they provide dementia-friendly walks across the county. There was so much. It was a great day.
It was, and it's like you said, it was focusing on creative ways of raising awareness and talking about dementia. Because when you think of a stereotypical conference, you're already falling asleep, isn't it? But the fact that this was so interactive, it wasn't just listening to presentations. It was, there was workshops and all different things going on. Great food as well. Just going to add that in.
The venue, thank you to the hotel. They did us a brilliant job. Thank you to kind of Reach Cornwall, True and Penrith colleague. Just brilliant kind of support really with running a conference. It was a great day. I think it got people talking about dementia, and of course it was a Dementia Action Week last week, and I think we're already planning next year's.
Fantastic. And we've already talked about the power of community and how valuable it is to have an event where we bring all these incredible people into the same room. Why, from your point of view, Alison, why is that so important?
Yeah, so dementia should be everybody's kind of business, really, that it is a chronic long-term condition. It's actually really quite common. It's not just that we know that it's the prevalence is sort of 1 in 6 over the age of 80, but we also know that there's young onset dementia. So it's just great to get everybody kind of talking, and actually it's the ethos of kind of social support, really. What we want to show is that everyone can support somebody living with dementia and their carers, and we need dementia-friendly communities, and people living with dementia need to feel kind of safe and kind of connected. So it was just about bringing it all together and making it everybody's business. I think does that answer your question?
It definitely
sure
does.
Yeah. Now, while we're talking about dementia, you mentioned how here in the Southwest we need to sort of push on a little bit, get on with things a bit better. There's still a bit of that stigma, maybe a stereotype associated. For those who maybe are watching and thinking, I could do with some support in some way, shape or form, what is there available here in the Southwest?
Yeah, so I still hear people saying, well, there's not enough support. Well, actually, there's quite a bit, but we've got to kind of connect everybody. So first port of call, obviously, the GP surgery. They have social prescribers who can kind of advise on what might be out there kind of locally for you. We've got our what we call primary care dementia practitioners that provide kind of the kind of lower level support for anybody kind of with a diagnosis living kind of at home. Some people need specialist support and they need kind of more intensive support, and we've got our amazing dementia old people's specialist service who've got CPNs, that's nurses, they've got occupational therapists. We've also got a specialist memory service if actually the diagnosis is a bit tricky and not something that could be made by a GP, then actually we've got a specialist service to kind of diagnose. We've also got dementia liaison nurses who are supporting some of our dementia specialist care homes. But at a local level, you'll also hear about our amazing voluntary sector who are providing services. We've got memory cafes. If you look at the memory cafe networks, if you kind of Google a memory cafe Cornwall, you'll find that there's lots of memory cafes around Cornwall, and they run kind of groups that connect people in the local area to provide sort of support. As I said, we've got the Sensory Trust. We've actually got Admiral Nurses and Dementia UK supporting carers. Alzheimer's Society are also kind of around in our county as well. So there's quite a lot of support out there, but it's making sure that we get people connected, and if people can get a diagnosis, then we can kind of open up the doors, really.
That's great. It's great to hear, isn't it, of what is actually out there, because that's the whole point of these conferences and having these conversations today, is to become more aware of these things. And we're obviously focusing on the, as amazing as those clinical services are, the creative side. That was what the main focus of the recent conference was. And for people who actually are affected by dementia, how do those creative services, such as, you know, the theatres and the music, how does that really sort of benefit them?
Yeah, so I think it just making sure that we kind of meeting and kind of meeting people's needs at a level that's kind of accessible. Sometimes clinical services are kind of scary, over medicalised, but actually a lot of these services are plumbed into the kind of memory cafes, and that's a really good kind of route to get support. But I think it just makes it more accessible for everybody, and demedicalises it a bit to kind of break down that stigma, I think.
It's nice to see as well. Lovely to hear the social prescribing coming up in your list of where support is. Social prescribing now is getting everywhere, and it seems to be helping so many people get to the right places. And I feel that it's that little gap of finding people. Sometimes the support could be out there, like you said, it is. Sometimes it's just trying to find it or know who to go to, who has that information.
Yeah, so our memory cafes are linked to and supported by Disability Cornwall. We know that we've got a bit more work to do as part of the Dementia Improvement Programme to kind of get the mapping out there, to make sure that in each area there's clear kind of signposting to what's kind of out there, really. But and I think making sure that the things that are really helping people, we can get that across the whole county, actually. But social prescribers, your local primary care dementia practitioner who'll be linked with the GP surgery should be able to kind of help people. Of course, we've also got the national helplines, Dementia UK and Alzheimer's Society, really good websites, really good kind of starting points for sort of information, really. But it's just nice to see people kind of supported in a more holistic way. There's still a lot of fear. People think, oh, dementia care, it must be all about doctors, all about medications. Actually, we're not the most important people. Actually, it's about communities. It's about that sort of holistic care closer to home that we hear that people benefit from the most, actually. And we saw during COVID, when a lot of those services weren't available, it's had quite an impact, really. So it's really nice to be able to have kind of the voluntary services is a key part of our dementia kind of pathway in Cornwall. AGK is providing services for us as well.
And I think it is important to note as well that it is so important that we have these open conversations about it. Have you noticed like a positive change of recent sort of years and months?
Yeah, I think it's getting better. I think there's a lot more chat. I think people still, not everybody understands dementia. I think not everybody understands that it's actually a disability and a hidden disability. I think the chat is getting better. I think there's been a lot of national kind of drivers that we've seen, things like the Vicky McClure Dementia Choir, all sorts of things kind of breaking down barriers, but there's still a lot of misunderstanding. Dementia it fits between a physical health issue, like a brain disease, but also touches into a mental health condition. We know that mental health conditions in general face kind of stigma. So, and again, seeing it as a sort of a disability, there's a lot more conversations we need to have. It's a really important condition. It's one of the leading underlying causes of death. Now, we've started talking about cancer, we talk about heart disease, but let's get people really recognising dementia and kind of accepting it as a condition and actually working hard to make sure that people can get diagnosed and supported. I kind of want us to stop ignoring dementia in Cornwall.
Couldn't say any better, could you?
Yeah, such an important message, and and everything that you're doing is amazing. The fact that you're clearly at work even now when you're speaking to us.
I am. I'm at clinical work today, but happy to kind of chat to you guys and just help. I work. I'm also chair of the Cornwall Dementia Partnership Board, which is a multi-agency group of organisations across Cornwall Council, healthcare sectors, Devon and Cornwall Police, the fire service, all of our voluntary organisations, Dementia Care. There's quite a group of us championing for sort of dementia care across Cornwall. So I think the future is going to be better. We've had a couple of events already before the pandemic, what we call co-production, just talking to people working in the field, people living with dementia and carers to get some feedback. We've currently got a bit of a plug for the survey out at the moment. So Healthwatch Cornwall are running a carers survey for us at the moment. We'd love to get people's feedback, good or bad, just to help us kind of shape services and kind of gather insights, really. So it's, I think things are positive, and I think Cornwall's going in the right direction.
Brilliant stuff. Well, hopefully we can continue going in that direction. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. It's lovely to see you again. Hopefully you haven't seen us too much in the last week.
Oh, no, you guys are brilliant, because I also saw you at the Care Awards. So we know that you guys are doing a lot for us supporting the community. Can I tell you a funny story about snails?
Go on.
Previous. I thought I think we should end on something kind of high. So I'm going to tell you a really funny story about snails. I don't eat snails, but snails are a topic that's close to my heart. Now, normally when you go on a first date, you might take a lady or might take somebody a bunch of flowers or a box of chocolates. The gentleman who's now my husband, I have to say, on the first official date we went on, he bought me a gift. Now, he likes to do things different. He likes to do things different, my now husband. But he bought me a snail garden ornament. It was a very odd choice for a first date. However, snails have remained passionate to my heart ever since, and I haven't ever been able to eat one because of that. And my little snail ornament, Sydney, who I gave the name, he didn't go in the garden, but he does sit on he sits on one of the windowsills in our house. What an odd choice for a first gift to date. I mean, doesn't do things kind of like standard.
I mean, he clearly knew you straight away. I mean, that is a risk. That is quite a risk.
It's quite risky. He said he knew I liked gardening, so he thought the snail ornament would be good. But I didn't quite know what he was trying to tell me. But there we go. So snails are an animal close to my heart.
I know Ross is going to love that, because Ross is a known gnome fanatic.
As a gnomer, I love that, and I would marry him straight away. I would just put that out there.
Thankfully, we've been married for quite a while now. I don't know how we've been married, but 14 years, I think. It's a very long time. So.
I love that.
Thank you for sharing. It was obviously a snail, so you don't need to be conventional with your first date gifts. Don't always just go down the path.
Just before you go, Doctor, could I ask you, just for a bit of signposting information, really, where can people go for more information and support for dementia?
Yeah, so as I said, probably GP surgery is a good first port of call. Also social prescriber, but actually the two brilliant websites that I always recommend are Dementia UK and the Alzheimer's Society website. If you type either of those into Google, you'll come up with their kind of websites. But also the local sort of primary care dementia practitioner service are out there around sort of to able to kind of help.
Amazing. Right, well, we'll leave it there with all the snail talk and everything. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Please come back again soon. It's been really, really good talking to you. Hopefully we'll cross paths in future.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Take care, and thank you for championing dementia.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.